But with all that being said, how good are the 2024 Seahawks actually going to be? All right, everybody, good morning. Welcome back. We have one more prediction video that we're going to bang out here before we get to training camp, and then we'll just see where things go. Obviously, I'm predicting a ton of things here. I'm certainly not going to nail most of this stuff. In fact, I doubt that I get super close on a lot of this stuff, but it's still fun to do. I think I'm going to get a lot of this stuff in a margin of error kind of way, and I think that I'm kind of getting the right idea about what's going to happen. But it's better to put concrete numbers to things. I think people like that. So this last video is going to do with the whole team. This last video is not about individual players and their statistical output and their box score stats. This is how does everything blend together to make a team that either wins or loses. How does it all blend together into a team's performance over the course of a 17-game season? So some of these numbers have been derived from previous numbers. Like I'll take certain numbers and average it out. I'll add other numbers up and come up with the ultimate sum in some of these categories. Some of these things are going to be new, however, like brand new considerations. And then I'm also going to guesstimate what the rank would be versus every other team in the league, which I certainly didn't sit here and try to do these numbers for every single team in the league. I'm just guesstimating based off previous years and also trying to take into account things like rule changes. Like, for instance, this year we have the no more hip drop tackle, which should have a negative effect on defense. But it's certainly not scientific. It's not precise. It's just a generalization based on league trends and previous results. All right. So we're going to start with the offense, and then we're going to go to the defense. And by the end, we should have a pretty good idea of what the 2024 Seahawks will be doing in terms of performance in their 2024 campaign. So before I get to the numbers, please like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Click the bell if you want notifications. Consider becoming a member of the channel. Click the join button, $2 a month. Those are all the ways that you can help out the channel. All right, let's hit it with the offense. And if you did the math on my previous couple of videos, the videos I did actually over a week ago, you would have come out to a number of yards per game. So we're going to roll with that number of yards per game that I earlier had, 357.4, basically. So 357.4. That would be a little bit better than last year. It wouldn't be up there with some of the greatest Seahawks offenses ever, and it wouldn't be up there with the elite offenses in the league, but it would be good. In fact, if you look at recent league trends, I would estimate that it would land somewhere around 9th. 9th, 10th, maybe 11th. It could push down that far just because of the hip drop ban, hip drop tackle ban, but it should be right around there, which would be about where they were in 2022. So you are making a little bit of a bet on Ryan Grubb doing very well this year, but I'm also not expecting him to light the world on fire. I'm just expecting him to have a good offense, which with this amount of talent, I think is reasonable. I think there's enough on this offense to expect somewhere around here, unless there are a bunch of injuries, in which case, I mean, you have to reconsider. All right, passing yards per game, if you did the math on my quarterback video, then you would have come out to 241.5. So 241.5, that would be good. It wouldn't be elite. Again, it would be right around the top 10, but only barely. I would estimate it lands somewhere around 10th in the league, which would be serviceable. It would be good, but it wouldn't it wouldn't settle the debate, right? Like, if Geno Smith averages 300 passing yards a game, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with keeping him around next year, especially if those numbers go with the other numbers they usually go with, like touchdowns and wins and points scored. But, excuse me, I do think that it'll be enough to make us feel like we're in pretty good hands for the time being. Rushing yards per game, I came out with 115.9. Again, I think that the improvement from last year is mostly going to stem from the fact that we should be playing from ahead more, and we don't have to contend with a terrible defense that it forces us to keep throwing the ball like we have the last 2 years. But it's still not going to be great. It's certainly not going to be on the level of some of the best rushing teams out there. I have us landing at about 13th or so when I compare it to previous years. Again, it's just kind of depends on league trends, right? Like, the league trend might become to run the ball more or run the ball less. I don't know. But roughly speaking, I think the ranks are going to end up around here. All right, so the more important thing, however, is points per game. How much are you scoring? And with these yardage totals and with the other things that I specified about this team, I think that the number is 23.7. You're going to have a little bit of defensive and special team scores as well, but through the offense, I think they get to about 23.7. Tiny improvement over last season. And that would put them right around 9th. I would estimate somewhere around 9th. I think that's totally reasonable because I do think there'll be low turnovers, and we'll get to that in a second. But when you're putting up the 9th most yards in the league and you're not turning the ball over a lot, I think scoring the 9th most points, even if you're not some elite red zone team, which I don't think we will be, is reasonable. Okay, total giveaways. I don't think we're going to be too turnover prone. Last year, we really weren't. We have running backs that really don't fumble that much. Geno isn't without mistake. Geno is not Aaron Rodgers or prime Russell Wilson. He is going to throw the occasional interception in a way that those quarterbacks didn't. But I don't think he's going to turn into a complete gunslinger here. He's not going to need to. And with the possible exception of DK Metcalf, who is known to fumble a little bit more than you would like from a receiver, I don't think there are a lot of guys on this team that are going to be giving it away. So 14 giveaways, which would be very good. It would be 4th in the league in terms of fewest. That's good, to be clear. So I think we will avoid turnovers very well. I think Ryan Grubb's offense is going to focus on getting the ball out quickly and matriculating the ball down the field and not taking a ton of huge risks. There will be some, but I think that Grubb understands that in the modern NFL, you take risks, you're just kind of playing right into the defense's hands because of the cover 2 shell stuff. Okay, a 3rd down conversion percentage. I'm not expecting amazing stuff here yet. We have not been a good 3rd down team lately, and that's been true across different quarterbacks, different offensive coordinators, different offensive lines and receivers and running backs. I went with 39%. I do expect it to be better than last year just because the offensive line should be better at pass protection, kind of by default because it was so bad last year. But that would still be about average, 14th or so in the league. It would be okay. It's not something that I think will be a big weakness like it's been before, because I do think Ryan Grubb has some stuff that he can do that our Waldron and Schottenheimer didn't have that I think will work. The problem is we still don't have a very good offensive line as of the moment. All right, 4th down conversion. I went with 57%. I think that's actually a little bit less than we had last year, but 4th down conversion stuff is very random, right? Because you don't go for 4th down that much, and the teams that are really good on 4th down tend to be kind of sporadic. So I said that would be about 9th in the league, but it could be anything, really. It could be any team that ranks really highly or really low in 4th down conversion, because you always get a small sample size, because how many times are teams going for it on 4th down? At most 40 times in a year, and that seems high. Finally, offensive penalties. I think we're going to commit a grand total of 59 offensive penalties in 2024, which would be not good. That would be roughly the 7th most. So that would actually be a bad thing. That would be one of the most penalized offenses in the league. But the way I see it, we have a new offensive coordinator. There's some stuff to be expected here. So it's growing pains. Defense. Now we go over to the defense here. We're going to start with yards per game allowed. I'm going with 322.7, which, again, is an improvement because the last 2 years it's been so bad. The one thing that I'm wondering about is if there's a little bit more garbage time against this Seahawks defense in 2024, because I do think the team will be playing with the lead a little bit more. and teams might pile up some yards in those situations. But that's been true of previous Seahawks teams as well. They give up stuff in garbage time. So 322.7, I estimate that would rank about 13th in the league. So slightly above average. Not great. I don't think you're going to build Rome in a day. I don't think you're going to fix all the problems with this team immediately. But 13th would be a big step in the right direction after ranking near the bottom 2 years in a row. All right, passing yards per game allowed. I came out to 211.5, so 211.5. That would be pretty okay. 12th, it would be slightly above average again. Now, the run defense is the one that's kind of hard to figure out here because this has been kind of the Achilles heel the last couple years, and it's also the area that Mike Macdonald's defense in Baltimore kind of struggled in down the stretch, at least compared to other things. Now, it's apples and oranges. Their defense was elite. Our defense was really bad. So their struggles are not the same as our struggles, but that is an area that Macdonald didn't necessarily have a great time getting things right in at the end of the season last year. So I'm going to go with 111.2. We threw all that money at Leonard Williams. We drafted Byron Murphy. There should be some improvement, right? It would be very weird if it isn't. If for no other reason than that you're swapping out the coach, you're bringing in Mike Macdonald, and Pete Carroll clearly didn't have it, and Clint Hurt clearly didn't have it in this area. They just didn't get it because they got to bring in players they wanted. They got to bring in guys like Bobby Wagner and Devin Witherspoon and Jaron Reed and trade for Leonard Williams. They couldn't fix it. So just by getting rid of those two guys, you should improve somewhat. So I think it'll be about average, 16th in the league approximately, in terms of rushing yards per game allowed. And that would be significant improvement. All right. So points per game allowed, I'm going with 21.3, which again, that'd be a lot better than recent. I can't imagine the defense getting worse because it was so bad last year. And I can't imagine it not taking a step in the right direction when they've done the things that they've done to try to figure this out. And I think that would be outside the top 10, but barely. I think it would be an above average, bordering on good defense at 21.3 points per game. Total takeaways, I think we're going to do pretty good in this area. It's not going to be amazing. 22 over 17 games. That's more than one a game, but it's not going to be elite by any stretch. I have it being about league average. It's 16th. Turnovers in general feel like they're down. Teams understand how to not take risks a little bit better than typical. So I don't think it's going to be like some massive turnover party, but it's going to be good. It's going to be okay. It's going to be enough to push this team in the right direction. Third down conversion percentage allowed. I do think this gets better just because Macdonald has a better understanding of how to attack third down. But 36%, which would be probably about 8th in the league. Still not elite, but certainly better than some of the stuff that we're used to. I just feel like it's going to be starting to take those steps in the right direction this year. Fourth down conversion allowed, I went with 55%. Just, again, fourth down stuff is hard. 17th in the league. Again, the sample sizes here are so small. It feels like you're just throwing darts at the board sometimes. And defensive penalties, again, I think we're going to be heavily penalized this year. We have a new coach. We have a new defensive coordinator. We have some new players. Not a ton of new players, but it's new stuff. There are going to be mistakes made, and mistakes mean penalties sometimes. So 53 penalties on defense, which would be the 5th most in the league based on previous league trends. So I do think we'll rack up a lot of penalties, and that might be the thing that keeps us from being a really good team this year. We might be sitting here in 6 months thinking if we had just cleaned up the penalties, we would have been a 12-win team. Well, that's what happens when you bring in brand new coaches. Sometimes you suffer a little bit in that area, but no pain, no gain. All right, that's my final big prediction video for the 2024 season, for the Seahawks at least. There may be some other predictions down the line. I will do another schedule prediction right before the season starts. I might do some league-wide things for fun, but that's it in terms of the individual nitty-gritty stuff. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you feel about all this. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Training camp's right around the corner. Let's just get there and get some stuff to actually process. Go Hawks.